to Back Talk. My name is Robert Pierce. I am the social media editor and campus editor for the paper, and I'm joined here today by...
I'm Anthony Martinez. I am photo editor for LMC Experience. I don't have a nickname like him.
What is my nickname, Robbie?
Your nickname is Jesus Switchblade Cano, resident sports expert.
Resident sports expert and the co-sports editor of the LMC Experience. Love sports. Unfortunately, the other sports editor, Hugo Calderon, isn't here. He's on the grind. Pledging allegiance right now. See you out there, Chief. Hopefully you can be out here one day, but take it away, Robbie.
So starting on the front page, the big story the lead front page story this week was the rally in Pittsburgh around Terry Emmons Jr.'s death. Now, we did talk about this last week on the podcast. I had a little video package, so we're not going to go too in-depth, but I was there for this, attending it. So what this was is that this was a rally in the parking lot of Nations out on Railroad Avenue. It was against police brutality. In January, Terry Emmons Jr. was shot and killed in his car by Pittsburgh police in that same parking lot. And his mother, Sandra Talbert, and a bunch of different organizers affiliated with the Oscar Grant Project and the Anti-Police Terror Project. Oscar Grant Committee and Anti-Police Terror Project. They were all there. They picketed. They marched around the restaurant. They chanted. There were a bunch of different speakers. I don't really know how to describe it because I don't necessarily want to say motivational. But one of the lead organizers, his name is Brother Kingdom, he described it as a strategic event. He described it as a kickoff. So I think their plan is that they want to do a lot more off this base. The whole thing was to draw awareness to police brutality, to this specific case of it, to some other cases, and just to the phenomenon in general. And
what was the word he used?
he used the word kickoff because he's saying that it's going to be sort of a stepping stone for other events to talk more about this issue and to press it further for the people of Pittsburgh.
Mm. I mean, couldn't you argue it's already been kicked off like a while ago?
Well, I mean, it hasn't stopped. Police brutality is something that
Mm-hmm.
keeps going, and it's something I think is a conversation that really needs to be pushed.
It's sad to see it so close to home, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's different when you see it on TV versus, like right around the corner, you know?
Definitely. For it to be that close in an
Mm-hmm.
area where you wouldn't necessarily think that would happen.
No, but you did say it happened in the whole incident. I know Pittsburgh Police Department released a video of that whole incident happening.
It took them a very long time to do that.
Yes, just like this event took a very long time to do that. I mean, why did it, it's what happened last week?
So it happened last week, and actually the reason for the disparity is that there's been a new district attorney recently,
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting ready to ask for a second investigation into the shooting.
Okay.
This is somewhat hearsay, but from what I was told by several people at the event, they tried to get an independent investigation with the last DA. No criminal activity was found. It didn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So with this new DA that's been installed recently, I believe her name is Diane Becton. I'll have it on the screen. They're trying to ask her for another case, for another investigation, potentially more charges.
Right.
So that's kind of, I guess, why the timing is happening now.
All right. Fierro.
So yeah, that was the event in Pittsburgh. Also on the front page was Dia de los Muertos out in Oakland. We had Perry Conene cover this. And so about that, isn't Dia de los Muertos not happened yet?
No,
we are recording this on the 29th.
And it'll be happening the day that this issue gets released, November 2nd, which is Friday. So yeah, it hasn't happened yet, but I think maybe it just came to booking the venue and stuff like that. And there's there could have been a lot of third party factors, but yeah, usually Dia de los Muertos is celebrated November 2nd, always November 2nd. Just right around the corner from Halloween, which obviously October 31st.
Yeah, but then Oakland just kind of had this early.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so it was a good event. Perry wrote a whole bunch about it. They had ofrendas. Did I say that right?
I don't even know what you're saying.
Ofrendas?
Ofrendas. There, I put a T instead of an N. Oops.
At least you rolled the R.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, Fierro.
Fierro.
But yeah, no, they had a bunch of stuff. It was good fun from what I saw. He got a bunch of great photographs, one of which ran in color on the front page.
Yes.
So, he had a whole write-up on that event.
And then he talked more to me about, they're offering something different this year, how you could write the name of a loved one who passed away. And now, in the next celebration next year, it's going to be, all the names are just going to be displayed in one place. That's what he told me.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's pretty interesting.
That's definitely really cool. If they keep doing this, years and years and years, they could make it kind of like a time capsule.
Mm-hmm.
And just have, every name that's been written on it.
Yeah. A huge collection. Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting.
Also on the front page, also by Perry. Perry went to the Alamo Draft House for a screening and book signing with Don Coscarelli. He's director of a bunch of different indie films. He was having a book signing for his new book, True Indie. and the screening was for two of his films, Phantasm and Bubba Hotep, and we actually sat down with Perry to learn a little bit more about that, so we're going to cut to that now.
I went to go see Don Coscarelli, who's one of my favorite horror directors. He directed Phantasm, which is a '79 film that I'm a huge fan of, super influential. And it was just really cool to see both that and Bubba Hotep, which is another deeply strange film that he created. And both these films have this like real empathy running through them that I think is like pretty beautiful, actually. And he was promoting this new book. This is True Indie, and it is about his being an indie filmmaker and the things that he has gone through. He actually made Phantasm when he was 22, which is a year younger than me, which is crazy that he managed to create something this like influential. Yeah, super nice guy.
Tell us more about the event.
Okay. It was at the San Francisco Alamo Draft House, which is actually a Texas chain of theaters, and it's this like upscale theater with where you can like order beer and food, and it's like this really nice experience. And so I went in, I barred it into San Francisco, and at the event they were handing out these books because to get in you had to buy a book. And then it was signed by Mr. Coscarelli, and it was just fascinating to me how kind he was. Like when he was signing other people's books, he signed, every time he signed a book, it wasn't just like, here's your signature, let's go. It was, he wanted to have a conversation with people. And I don't know, that was just really heartening. And that really reflects in his work with that like empathy that I discussed before. I mean, there's just this kindness to everything he does. And it was just it's a really cool event. There was a Q&A portion where he was asking people Elvis trivia questions and handing out merchandise. It was just really cool. I did mention that I thought that Phantasm was a really interesting film, and he mentioned that he thought that the reason it's endured, despite being so strange, I mean, there's a scene in which a metal orb chases a guy down and drills into his brain, and that's never explained. It just happens, and you have to accept that. And he explained that despite how strange, how weird it was, part of the reason why part of the reason it resonates with people, besides like being a really imaginative and just like fantastically shot film, is that there's this like these really real interpersonal connections, and that seems to be something that like his work really zeroes in on, are these interpersonal connections with a background of just total insanity. I mean, Bubba Hotep is about a guy who may or may not be Elvis, and a guy who is almost definitely not JFK in an old folks' home fighting a mummy who sucks out people's souls. And you just have to accept that, and it's beautiful. So it was really interesting to watch people who had obviously been dragged by their significant others because they did not know what to expect. And at the end of Bubba Hotep, this guy next to me just starts like kind of laughs and says that movie had no business being as good as it was. And I just loved that because, he went into this with zero expectations. It's a movie about Elvis and JFK fight a mummy. And he, connected with this, very real emotional core in it. And it was just really interesting to see people experiencing these films that I love and I've seen so many times from these people experiencing them just from an entirely new place. They had a really good beer list at, the theater. I looked at it and I was like, wow, field work. And you got Rare Barrel. I think Rare Barrel was on there. They had just these star breweries that put every bar in Brentwood and Pittsburgh to shame. And I think that the bars around here need to improve on that. And that is my takeaway from this whole experience.
So you would recommend the Alamo Draft House?
Oh,
whatever
highly.
Events they want to have there.
Absolutely. There isn't a bad seat in the house. Every seat in the theater has a great view of the screen. Because it's so many theaters, it's all the seats in the front are terrible, and you're gonna miss a lot. Every seat in the theater is designed to be fantastic. They were all recliners, and they were super luxury. Great menu, great beer menu. Go there.
Fierro.
And then moving on to campus, we had Lily Montero do a write-up on the Brain Food Project, and more specifically the Center for Academic Support, or CORE's open house, where they kind of just talked to students about CORE's mission of offering academic tutoring, and they unveiled two new projects, which is the Brain Food Project, which is basically CORE is going to start providing food during study sessions so that students can be at those study sessions for longer, and it's going to help to sort of alleviate that food anxiety in addition with the food pantry. And then the other program that they were talking about was traveling consultants, in which they're basically sending students to different classrooms, traveling consultant, to just kind of give specialized focused tutoring on certain difficult subjects. And then other than that, it was just an open house event. And then the other story for campus was, tragically, we had Joyce O'Rourke was a staff member over nursing. She died last week at age 61 due to complications from heart surgery. Moving on to the features page, we actually had a double truck for it this week, which means we ran 2 pages for features. We had a very large, actually, I haven't talked about this yet, we ran a very large 8-page
paper.
8-page paper. Well, 7 pages in a full color.
Yeah.
We had an 8-page paper, 4 color pages, one of which is an ad, but 3 color pages and an ad. So yeah, massive issue. First time we've done it this semester, so it was definitely really cool to see that pulled off. And it just turned out really well.
Yeah, I'm actually really proud that we were able to pull this off. It's always nice to see, you know, us, our content grow more. Make a, you know, really thick piece of paper.
Yeah, definitely.
Like old school, like the catalogs, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So features was the page that ran double wide this last issue, and some of the stories on that were, one of the big ones was Big House Beans. Now, so Anthony, Nick Campbell is the one who wrote the story, but you were there photographing it. So can you tell us a little bit more about this?
All right, so Big House Beans. I went over there to photograph the event. Well, not even the event, but I went there to photograph their location, their coffee shop, down in downtown Brentwood, close by, right behind Willie's Bagels and Blend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's right behind there. And as soon as I opened the door, I was surprised. I saw my boy Trevor. He used to work at Starbucks, but now he's working at Big House Beans. And
sounds like an upgrade.
Yeah, it does. And then so he's having a great time over there. I love the staff; they're very friendly. The display or the everything they have going on there is really nice. It's very like futuristic yet like retro, you know, and it's just like a nice environment already. They already have a great for being a local coffee shop. They already have a great foundation or like a pretty good following, and they do a lot of in-house stuff. They have a lot of you know, selection from different parts of the world, particularly Guatemala, and it was just nice seeing that, you know, just like it was a very raw environment, you know, for them to, you know, produce coffee, and it was just nice. Very, like I said, very friendly staff. Also, Nick Campbell also talks about that, you know, the staff in particular. You want to go over that a little?
I did talk with Nick about this. So the whole idea of the store is that it mostly employs people who have gotten out of prison, right?
Yeah, that's what I've been told too. Like, you know, the owner, the manager of the place, like, he's very, you know, I guess he just gives second chances to people like that. So it's great to see that outreach, the community outreach, that in that way.
That's the pun with Big House. Is that it's a big house of beans, but it's also talking about prison. So it's ex-prisoners. I don't know if the legal term would be ex-felons or not, but it's ex-prisoners, and he's trying to give them a chance at re-entry and a second chance with a job.
But like I said, you know, don't let that intimidate you. Very friendly staff. You know, they're all very great people. You know, they let me get behind the scenes and all that stuff, and they just, I can see they already have a great foundation already and a great community, so definitely go check them out.
Also on features was Perry Continente. We make a lot of work. Perry's a workhorse.
Yeah, he's a workhorse. He does everything, man. Page, you know, double page design sometimes, takes all the pictures in the newspaper sometimes. He's just a really overall workhorse, you know, much respect to Perry.
But anyway, third story by Perry on this podcast. He went to Epidemic Brewery. It was the final chapter of his Oktoberfest series, so he's got a full write-up review for that place. Also on campus, we had a story by Dale Sater about the debate team, and so we talked a little bit about this on the podcast last week. What this is that they have a lot of people graduate out or for otherwise leave the debate club, leave the debate team. So they're in kind of a process of rebuilding, and we actually have some video footage with some members from the debate team, so we're going to cut to that now.
Hi, I'm Dale Satry, and I'm here with Haley Solaris, who is the new president of the LMC debate team. So, just to start, can you give us the rundown of what's new this year with the debate team?
Yeah, so this semester it's a lot different than it was prior years. So we're kind of having like a restart year where a lot of the debaters that we had on the semesters prior on the team, they've graduated. And so right now our team is pretty small. So basically we're having like a rebuild year where we're trying to recruit a lot of people, and we're trying to just get people who will be able to commit right now for the semester and then following semesters who won't just stay for, you know, a couple practices or whatnot, but just really want to stick with debate and really commit to that.
Okay. How would you say that the debate team has formed you as a student and formed you as a person?
Yeah, I think debate has had a lot of impact on my life, actually. It's really exposed me to what I'm passionate about. So prior to joining the team, I was biology major, and then now being on the team, I've been exposed to politics and international relations and a lot of cultural conflicts, all these kind of things that just are current events, and that has sparked my passion to switch my major now, and also it's helped me improve with my critical thinking, with my public speaking, and also being able to stick with my opinion and really test what I truly believe. You know, in these debates, we argue a lot of controversial things, and oftentimes we have to argue things that we don't necessarily believe with. And so it's really helped me to form and understand other people's opinions and to open my mind to, you know, those kinds of things.
Okay.
The other side.
How do you approach the task of debating something that you don't necessarily agree with?
Just knowing that there are people who actually believe these things, and there are actually people and knowing that helps me to understand, well, that's why we're debating this. Even though I don't necessarily believe it, I go into it thinking, well, even though it's not my opinion, I am still able to think about how people see these things, and also in the room of debate, people know what you're debating. You can say whatever you want, and people will just think that what you're saying you don't believe. Like, or you might, but it's not necessarily. It's just the same understanding.
So would you say it's about detaching yourself from and looking at it objectively?
Yeah, it is definitely looking at it objectively, definitely. That's why in debate, if you bring in some type of opinion-based, you know, argument or evidence, it's not really going to get you far. It's no ground. It's you need to bring in tangible examples. Look at it from a world view. Look at it from other people's perspectives rather than just your own.
Okay. As the new president of the club, what makes you most excited this year?
What makes me excited is that right now, as I said, we are forming, getting new people and forming a new team. But the people that we have right now, I think, are committed, and it's really exciting to see individuals learning just the art and style of debate, and also the professors who teach the class are using a new approach now, where prior we would just throw people into a debate, and now we're really breaking it down and saying, okay, this is how you form an argument, this is how you form your impact, this is how you would analyze this motion and this topic. And so that makes me excited because I think that taking it from like a bottom down approach is what we're really doing this semester, and starting from just the basics, it's exciting because not only am I seeing these people really enjoying it and they're learning about debate, but also myself just like reinforcing what I know about debate too.
Okay. So when you're forming new members, how much is it of trial by fire and trial by practice?
I think it's both. I think that it takes you failing to realize what you need to get better at, and I also think it just takes practice to, wow, I'm doing good and I'm going to continue to get better. So I think it's also individual specific as well.
Okay.
In regards to that.
Before we wrap up the interview, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would just say that joining the debate team is something that you should totally check out and expose yourself to. I think that it's something that you might not like at first, but with enough exposure, enough stimulus, I think you can end up liking it, and it improves your critical thinking skills. And I think we really developed a really safe place at practice. I think that, you know, people aren't scared to ask questions. People are not as scared to, you know, state their opinions or to analyze other people's opinions. So I think we have a really safe place there, and I'm really proud of that.
Well, thank you for coming out here for the interview, and good luck to your team this year.
Thank you.
Cut.
And then, as always, we had a double track of features, so there's plenty of other stories, including a review of Becky Shaw, Umoja Bowling, and also a review of a local pho place. And then, this week in sports, like I said, we got our resident sports expert, Switchblade Jesus Cano. You want to talk to us about this week in sports?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the lovely introduction, Robbie. First off, I think we have to really shout out the women of fall here at LMC, and I'm talking about the women's volleyball team and the women's soccer team. Fantastic job, undefeated, perfectly conference play so far with the women's volleyball and the women's soccer. Hugo's the women's volleyball beat writer, so I can't necessarily give insight on the women's volleyball because
with soccer, you called that a while ago.
I called that a while ago. Thanks for reminding me. What did I tell you guys? Now, I did call that they were going to win the Bay Valley Conference, and as the release of this podcast, it's going to be released Tuesday morning.
Yes.
You know, they're going to be heading out to Marysville to play Yuba College. And, yeah, they, you know, the game that I covered on Friday, then the one that went in the paper, they beat Napa Valley College 2-0. And they beat Merritt College 6-0 in the one I most recently went to cover. They're just a great team, and they have a lot of depth to the roster. It's just fantastic to see this program. I mean, let's go back to 2 years ago when head coach Zach Sullivan took over this team. They were maybe a 2-3 win team. Even prior to that, they were also the same. They just, you know, a very bad program, but ran by a questionable coach. But it's crazy to see that. Quote me on that. I don't care.
Now undefeated.
Oh yeah, Zach Sullivan's an amazing guy. He just turned over the program. Even last year when they got, I think they got second place, if that's correct. I'm not sure if it's correct or not, but when Jonathan Little was covering it, I know that they did excellent. They went on a winning streak, of course. Unfortunately, couldn't get the big one against Solana College, who ended up winning the Bay Valley Conference. But, they're just mathematically very, very close to clinching it. Yuba College, the team that they're playing today, is the team that's been giving a lot of other teams more trouble. What I think needs to be done, especially, they need to, they're a team that creates opportunities, and they're a team that doesn't allow other teams to score opportunities. So it works really good.
Mm-hmm. What do you think has been their key to success? Is there any particular factor or factors you could put it on?
Defense. Defense has been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You guys probably don't know this. You guys are going to be shocked, but they haven't allowed a single goal through conference play.
All.
And when they're through 9 games through conference play. So the games that matter to win the conference, the Bay Valley Conference.
I knew that they had a lot of shutout games, but I didn't realize it.
Yeah, not a lot.
Goal.
Yeah, but if my math is correct, it's 810 minutes. But I write for a reason, so I may not be correct. They may be a little bit on and off, but it's been defense overall. I mean, they score against a lot of teams. Against Mendocino, Merritt, and all that, and all those teams. But defense has come up to them. I mean, Riley Pearson, hasn't allowed a goal in their defense. Core of Emma Spears. Kaylee Lewis, who came a little bit later in the season. Holly Gallagher plays defensively too. Shelly Toronto, and a whole bunch of other players. Kyla Nye that also adds that, and also Brianna Omedo. She's very key. That's a player that Zach's really high on. And it's just been defense so far, but
they also say the best offense.
Yeah, they also create a lot of opportunities, but it sucks to see because I mentioned this a little earlier in the article I wrote about the Napa Valley College game where, they're outscoring opponents, yes, but when you're, against Merritt, Mendocino, the teams that, struggle to put up numbers, they've outscored them, I think, in the article I wrote, it was 28-0. Well, that's where most of their goals come from. If you want to win the Bay Valley Conference, have a clear shot. I know they're going to win, but to have a clear shot at it, when they take, 15 to 20 shots on goal throughout the entire game, you got to come up more than 1 to 2 goals. You can't rely on your defense a lot, especially when you're playing a team like Solano, who is going to be hungry. And honestly, it's going to come down to the wire if they can take care of business against Yuba College today. It's going to come down to the wire against Solano College. So they need to get on board. The offense needs to get on rolling. And once if you get up to a 3 goal lead early in the first half, your defense feels confident, your goalkeeper feels confident. Take this from somebody that played the sport. I played it at the NPL level over at Impact Soccer Club, those glory days.
I used to run for Impact.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're playing those,
too.
Yeah, retired now, but when it feels really confident that not only for your defense but your goalkeeper to have that type of lead. So I'm still fond. I'm confident. I'm going to say it again. They're going to win the Bay Valley Conference, right? No matter what happens, they tie, they lose, or whatever, they're going to end up winning the Bay Valley Conference. And it's ironic. I said it in front of YouTube, and it's going to happen. So, as you say,
I'm holding you to it. Let's see what they're able to make happen.
Switchblade's never wrong.
Question though, have they ever won the Bay Valley Conference? Ever?
I've heard. I cannot confirm, but I've heard that they haven't. I mean, it's a fairly new soccer program. I don't know when it came in. My mentor, Luke Johnson, when he was here, I actually met him this week, and we were talking about him. Yeah, Scoop Johnson. He's talking about when he was here, the program was terrible, and I'm pretty sure they didn't win a Bay Valley Conference. So it could be their first, but I still have yet to confirm that stuff. So maybe that'll come in later in the day. But yeah, still have yet to confirm that stuff.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about football, because I know you got a lot of thoughts on this one. So tell us about football.
Let's talk about the art for football, too, for the page, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I know you were really excited about this one.
Kelly did amazing. Kelly did amazing. Shout out to Kelly Williams. She filled in for our photographers that couldn't make it this weekend. She did an amazing job, soccer and football. I just want to give a shout out to her. But moving forward to the action that happens onto the field, they had an away game against De Anza. So keep this in mind. So they played De Anza earlier this season. I was talking to Chris Scheid, the head football coach, earlier. They played De Anza earlier in the year, and it was because so they have an uneven amount of teams, or too much teams in their own conference, right?
Yeah.
I forget what it was. And every certain years, 2 teams have to play each other again twice, so they have to play De Anza twice, which is in their own Bay Valley, not the Bay Valley, but whatever it's called, right? So they played De Anza College early in the season. They beat them. They played the Anson College this weekend and got smacked by them like 56-17 according to what CCCAA. And it's just been a rough season for them, especially when you're coming back off a season. You know, last year they had one of the best seasons ever when they won the Living Breath Foundation Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had that historic run. Chris Scheib told me that's never happened in his career where he's been here at not only as head coach but as an assistant coach in general here at LMC. So it's kind of tough to see that. And in reality, you know, LMC should be one of the best community colleges for football in California.
But they just haven't been yet.
Why
do you think that is?
The thing is, I think that I'm gonna say that I think I think the people who are in charge of distributing money aren't you know, they aren't paying the coaches full time. When you aren't full time, you know, you aren't necessarily have time to do that stuff. And I talked this earlier with Zach Sullivan, the soccer coach. There's only two full time coaches, which is Rich Villegas, also the athletic director. Yes, jeez. Rich Villegas, the athletic director, and Derek Dominichelli, the basketball coach, from what he told me. And coincidentally, they're both basketball coaches. And but I think it's also a wild card because while you know, they face those obstacles because the VBAL, because I cover high school football, you guys know this stuff.
Yeah.
The VBAL has some tremendous athletes that don't get to go to the next level, but these athletes are traveling to where? DVC, San Francisco City College. I can name 6 players off the top of my head that go to San Francisco City College that live in these areas, you know, Pittsburgh, Antioch, Brentwood, to play football. Why don't they choose to go to LMC? Because LMC isn't strong, and it hasn't been strong in the past. When programs like DVC, City College, San Mateo, and all these other programs have just been, you know, producing guys to the next level, it's going to happen. But at the same time, when you don't have, you know, coaches that aren't full-time, and that's not just football, you know, it's soccer. Soccer, as good as they're doing right now, and it's not mean to knock on them at all. They're a great team. If they go into those playoffs, you're not going to survive at all because they're just not equitably equipped compared to the other teams, you know, because LMC soccer got out-recruited too by Delta College, Las Positas Colleges. Why? Because they have better programs. And it's just because, you know, their coaches are full-time.
Yeah, you bring an interesting question, though. Like, if they did pay for it full-time, would we see a difference? Like, do you personally see any sort of difference in basketball? Because you said those two coaches were full-time, right? Mm-hmm. Are you seeing any difference in basketball's overall performance? I know they're different sports, but their results versus that of any other, like football,
like relatively per capita.
Well, unfortunately, you know, I can't give a clear-cut answer because basketball season hasn't started yet. Mm-hmm. But last season they both had similar seasons. All sports had, except football, who had the huge, you know, I think they had the best season out of all teams. They had a huge, you know, difference between them. But you also got to look at different smaller sports like volleyball. In soccer, they have 3 coaches, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe 3 coaches overall. Football has, 8, 9 coaches? Baseball has, 8, 9 coaches? And their players go out and recruit, too. I think there would be a huge difference. I think, you know, there'd be more time to build around the program. Because, you know, a lot of these coaches have jobs elsewhere, too. Like, Zach's the director of coaching over at Diablo FC. I don't know what Chris Scheib do. I don't know what anybody else is. I think Lou Panzil is retired, actually. The volleyball coach. So, you know, they have other stuff to do that doesn't consume this. If they had this full time, you know, what's your sole focus, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like being able to juggle, you know, working 40 hours a week at school. At work, and then going to school at the same time, right? Yeah. It's just a comparison that we can live up to as college students, where if you were just dedicated to school, you know, you'd have way more time. You'd be doing way better in class and not stressed out as much. So that comes into play. Honestly, I think there should be a push because it's easily this way. You know, if there's more success within the sports programs, you're going to attract more people. I mean, you know, we're not going to attract people that are going to come to school because I want to watch LMC sports, because that's never going to happen. But you're going to have people that are going to be attracted to, you know, making further commutes, right, to come play over here. And, you know, is that going to produce more for the school? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Money. That's an easy system, but I don't think it's something that won't be happening anytime soon. But it'd be something nice to see, and I would definitely see that if that were to happen. Maybe within 3 to 4 years, LMC is going to be a powerhouse when it comes to sports.
Yeah, you know, we can only hope.
Can only hope, but yeah, I mean, you know, shout out to the women's teams. They're just doing great, and you know, it could be first time ever where both women's sports during the fall win the Bay Valley Conference. So, it'd be fun to see. Women's soccer plays their last home game of the regular season against Solana College, which could be the championship, the unofficial championship for the Bay Valley Conference. So, as long as everything keeps on going the way it is, it should be a good matchup.
Awesome.
And that's all we got for this week. Coming up next week, some potential highlights would be Mark Lopez went to TwitchCon. We had him on the podcast last week. Went to TwitchCon. He's going to have a whole write-up on that. He's got some pictures, too. And also, we had Dale Sater again. He actually went and visited a local winery, so that kind of contrasts with Perry's brewery scene. So those stories and more coming at you live next week. Coming at you live on the website, lmcexperience.com. Coming at you live on our social media, LMC_experience on both Twitter and Instagram. So, till next time, I'm Robert Pierce.
I'm Anthony Martinez.
I'm Jesus Cano, @juice_Cotter on Twitter.
Switchblade.
Yeah.
And this has been Back Talk. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.